My name is Mustafa Adib Shakib. I just go by my middle name for the most part, which is Adib. So I came here back in 2017 to study undergrad. So I did my undergrad back in Texas Tech University. I did dual bachelor's degree there in computer science and maths, and then had a minor in electrical engineering. So after graduation, I went to Snap to work as a software engineer.
You have completed your double major with a minor in, you have also mentioned that. So here, did you work as a part-time anywhere?
I came here in August of 2017. That basically means I'm not qualified to get an OPT, which basically qualifies you to get any sort of internship in the United States. However, you are allowed to get part-time jobs in the US. So what I did was like during my first year or first semester in college, I was just basically trying to get myself adjusted to the system in the US, and then also try to get adjusted to like the curriculum here, understand things, know people. So during my first semester, I did not end up working. However, I used to. So I started my very first business at the age of 17 when I was doing my O levels, which stands for SSC, like in NTB curriculum. So I saved up money from there, a couple of $1,000. So that's what I used during my first semester. So I did not end up working for university, and I wanted a job in the United States as quickly as possible, for a couple of different reasons. First of all, it gives me a social security number. Social security number is needed for pretty much everything in the US. And then the second thing you need is a bank account, and then you need to get started with building credit reports, because if you want to get credits for any sort of financial support, you need that history. So I needed those things, and I also needed some like financial support to pay for a lot of my tuition fees and living expenses. So I kind of like weighed all my options, and I didn't want to continue the business that I had back in Bangladesh. The reason was because of operational issues. I knew that I was in the US. It's hard to do conduct business in Bangladesh. I started applying to different companies back in Bangladesh for summer, and that's exactly what I did. I came back to Bangladesh during summer of 2018. I did an internship for Grameen Telecom for a couple of months, and then I also took summer classes. I took 15 hours, which is like full loaded summer classes in the US. The reason I was able to balance it can be something I can go ahead, but I guess that answers your question, right?
And here the conversation becomes a bit interesting because you joined, I mean, your first job as a cashier, you have completed your engineering, and now, according to our studies, you are building the next strip, right? You
Yeah.
are
So
making digital currency. So,
yes,
I
that is
mean,
correct.
does all the things connect with each other? Your job, what you are doing right now, or you were pretty much ambitious from the beginning that you will go here or this kind of thing? If you share that, the whole back end journey about it.
I was always like very curious about money in general, like financial services. Like I mentioned, like I started my first business at the age of 17, and my first ever job in the United States was a cashier job. And my first job out of college, after I graduated, was a software engineering job at Snapchat. So like I had a very good understanding about, or I thought I did, about money and the way money circulate around our society. So I like after I came when I joined Snapchat, I think one of the primary motive behind this current idea that I had, and I will share a little bit about that one, and why I term it as like the next Stripe. So Stripe is a payment processor. So if you don't, so just to for a little bit of clarity, payment processor basically means like it's the middle ground between a bank and a customer. It's basically the buffer that tries to navigate the transactions. In terms of let's say like when you press, let's say like you are trying to pay someone, the bank doesn't necessarily know you want to pay this person, right? The bank goes through some sort of a middleman. So Stripe is the middleman. So we don't necessarily have that same sort of middleman in a very user-friendly way in the crypto world. So that was basically the reason why I decided to do this. But there were other reasons behind it. So for me, one of the reason was when I joined Snapchat, I was very curious. Like I used to use Snapchat from the very first day when I came to the US, because like in America, Snapchat is the most popular social media alongside Instagram. So Snapchat and Instagram are the most popular ones. And if you go to dorms, you will see snap codes everywhere. And at that time, I didn't really know snap codes. So when I learned about Snapchat and I learned like Snapchat, okay, you can message gets disappeared. Like, why did we come up with this concept? And then when I joined Snapchat, I was like, there is a reason why we decided to have disappearing contents. For example, messages or pictures. I really understood the philosophy behind it when I was working there, because I used to work in the messaging side. So then I was like, okay, in blockchain, we basically say something similar. Let's say like in blockchain, we also say we need to get hold of every single transactional records, right? For example, what is a blockchain? A blockchain is basically a collection of different blocks that have a specific information, right? So like we know, like in the crypto world, every single transaction goes to the blockchain ledger and it gets stored forever. But we're making a lot of assumptions here. One of the assumption is, for example, if you're doing proof of work, which is the case for Bitcoin, we are betting on the fact that there is not any substantial computing power as of right now to do the work, to be able to break like to be able to break it, right? Because if we have enough sufficient computing power, we know that we will be able to break it one day. But as of right now, we're betting on the fact that it's not enough. However, there is research going on in quantum computing, right? So we know that one day, maybe not today, but maybe a couple of years down the line or decades down the line, we know that it's going to eventually be a thing. But if blockchain keeps on becoming bigger and bigger, like the way it's growing right now in the world, or like in the world, especially in the United States right now, if you say any startup has something to do with Web3, investors are pouring money into it. So since it's becoming bigger and bigger, and it's a very good way to combat inflation, which was a prominent thing at the height of pandemic in the United States and around the world, blockchain just becomes more of like a thing people are much more invested in. And I kind of got this insight when I was doing customer days for discovery back in Stanford and Berkeley. So I knew that one day, if it goes bigger, people will care about like the ability of blockchains not being broken, and that is going to be a thing if quantum computing is to succeed. And we knew that we need to do something about it, where we give people the ability to disappear their transactions, or give people the ability to disappear their personal transactions, not commercial. Just want to make that distinction, because commercial transactions we cannot technically disappear instantaneously. One of the reasons we cannot do that is because of the United States law. The United States law, basically FDIC, we call it, has a law that says like you have to keep a transaction record if it's commercial for a period of 5 years. So we know that we have to centralize it a little bit there. But for personal ones, we know like that doesn't necessarily need to happen. We don't necessarily need to have the blocks forever if people does not like it. So that's the basically essence of the startup that I'm doing. And yeah, like right now I'm working on the sides. It's not a full time. I'm still working as an SD too, but on the sides I work on the startup. But hopefully once I settle down more and I'm able to get the green card, and we can and the startup gets more traction, I do plan on quitting my 9 to 5 to focus fully on it.
So I have a little bit more curiosity about knowing some of the things, which is that you started a business back in the days. You stopped that due to operational issues. Then you had some of the internship. You got graduated. Now you are working as a full time. So what inspires you, or what is the thing that drives you towards making something? Or there's the environment of like USA, the environment of entrepreneurship. They're kind of the storehouse. California, Silicon Valley, they're controlling the world, giant companies. So does it somehow motivates you if you share that?
Yeah, sure. So I wouldn't say I was always like this. I would say the primary motivation behind starting my very first business back in Bangladesh at the age of 17 was because I wanted to come to the United States. That was my primary motive. My parents didn't want to support me. They didn't want to pay for any of my application fees. They also did not want to pay for the SATs that I need to sit for. And I also knew that I needed to pay for my flight tickets as well as save up money for my first semester. Even if I got full funding, I still need money for living expenses because I cannot live on the streets, right? So I knew that I needed money, and I needed. And my parents at that point was at that time. Later they were cooperative, but initially they weren't. So my primary motive when it comes to starting that business was to build up the financial independence so that I can pursue my dreams, which is come to the United States. Now the question is, why do I want to come to the United States? It's a very good question. So so I don't know. I was always very entrepreneurial when I was very like starting from a very little age, and I wanted to do big things in my life. I just didn't want to confront to the regular way we do things. Okay, which is okay. I'm not saying it is bad. I'm not saying that. Every person has their own dreams, but and everything is right if you feel like that's the way you want to live your life. That's completely fine. But in my case, I wanted to do big things. I felt like I don't necessarily say like I have everything, but I thought that I have the curiosity and the work ethic to gain skills even if I didn't have those. So I felt like if I can really put my heart and soul into something, then I can probably make a difference for the world and make it better for generations to come. So I really wanted to do big things in my life, and that was one of the reasons why I was targeting just the United States. I applied to other countries, but United States was my primary target, and the business was like the business I had back in Bangladesh. I started that business just because of the fact that I wanted to come to the United States. And now, when I was in college, when I was in college, I knew that I needed to get a job to stay here, or I needed to further my education. So I was like, okay, so I needed to get a job. So I went to Texas Tech. Most people, like my seniors over there at that time, they were saying like, okay, international students cannot get jobs. Every time you go and submit your resume, they ask you like, or like, do you require sponsorship? And you say yes, they turn you down instantaneously. And they were like, most seniors at that time weren't, like after they were graduating from Texas Tech, which is like an unranked university in the US for engineering, as far as I know, or used to be the case. Most people were coming back to Bangladesh, and I didn't want that to happen. So I chose Texas Tech because of funding, but I also knew that I wanted a job in the United States, and I wanted to get the green card as quickly as possible. So I did research when I was studying, and as far as my research goes, if you are working for any big tech, it's the easiest way to get a green card in the United States, the shortest and the most easiest way. So, and I also knew that I needed funding to stay afloat. And I also knew that FANG jobs pay you the most in the US. They pay way more than doctors here. So I was like, that's what I need to build up the initial capital to support myself as I'm pursuing my goal. And the third thing was like, okay, I also knew I would be able to work with the best of the people. That basically means I can further my skill set because if I am technically savvy and I have a product idea, even if it doesn't succeed, I can at least build up the initial MVP and then showcase it to people. But if I don't have the technical skills, I don't necessarily have, I have words, but I don't have anything actionable to show. So I was very invested on building up the skill set and to get those jobs. So when I was in college, I gradually went through it. So initially, I was more into hackathon, which is like a smaller version of startup. And then afterwards, I got my internship. And then as soon as I got on one internship, I leveraged it for the other. And that's pretty much the cycle that I did. I did internships during college, during summer. And I think in the period of, I think 4 years, I did about 5 in the US, 1 in Bangladesh. And I tried to get as much exposure as possible to the startup culture, to the small business, talking to actual founders, like why did they start a business? How did they get their first traction? How do they maintain customer retention, stuff like those. And then like after graduation, I knew I wanted to get into a big tech, and that's exactly what I did. But for me going into the future, I would say like if I have substantial capital to keep me afloat, and then I have the green card, and then the startup is taking over, I want to pursue it full time. I don't necessarily see myself continuing 9 to 5 for a very long time.
What do you feel like that? You will go with the role of being a CEO, okay, or you are satisfied with the work you are doing right now with softwares, engineering. So, what do you want to do in the first place? Because we have seen many of the engineers who are taking over the CEOs, they are controlling the whole company really well because they have that comprehension. So, what's your take on this?
Think in the earlier stages of startup, it's more about a research. So I see startup as like a research, but it has much more of a industry application rather than a fundamental research. So I see myself, and it depends from person to person, but I see startup as similar to a PhD. The only difference is PhD is foundational research, whereas startups are applicational research, meaning it's trying to make money. So business acumen is obviously very, very helpful. Engineering skills is also very helpful. So in the earlier stages, when you are just a couple of people, because right now for my startup, we are literally 2 people. So obviously, you need to have the technical skills to build it up. So obviously, being an engineer helps. So in my case, right now, in my startup, we only have two people. It's bootstrapped. It's so the fundings that we have received as of right now, all of them were grants, and grants basically means we don't give away any equity in return. It's basically free money that we have received so far. We also received backing from an early stage investor who's called 1517 Fund. But essentially, the way I see it is in the earlier stages, you need to be more of an engineer and a designer rather than like an actual business person, because you need to build it up. But on the side, you need to also be a good businessman, because you need to pitch your product, you need to sell it to your investors, and you also need to go and talk to customers as much as possible. For example, when I was thinking about starting a startup, I didn't really have like went ahead and then started building a product. My engineering side of things wanted me to do that, but I did not do that. What I ended up doing was I ended up taking a different approach. Even before I graduated in my last semester, I had less academic pressure. So I was always surrounding myself with potential customers. I was going to people literally, and then asking people like, what are some of the problems that you face with crypto, and do you even know crypto? Do you think there's a barrier to entry? How do you think we can help you? Like stuff like those. Like I started from people, and I am still with people. Like even though we are building a product, I still go back to people all the time to like confirm, okay, this is something they want. Because ideally, you want to build a product for people, not for robots, which is a problem for engineers. Like whenever we build products, we don't take the emotional side of things. We think about rationalities, for example, how to make it performant, how to make it scalable, things like those. But people don't necessarily buy stuff based on rational logics. They buy stuff, or they invest on stuff based on the experience and the emotions. So I would say like initially, might be going a little bit off topic, but I guess initially I would say I'm going to keep working as an engineer, but eventually, um, if the startup succeeds more and we decide to onboard more people into our team, I will be transitioning to management. However, if I think there is another individual that can do the job better than I can do, I'm not opposed to the fact that I have to hold on to this power. It's not, for me, it's not a title. It's the fact that if I think someone can do it better, he can definitely go ahead and take the role and lead the team. Because in my opinion, it's a team effort. It's not an individual effort. If someone can make it way better than I can, obviously we all gain. It's not like a loss for us. So for me, it's not like I have to hold on to it. But for now, decision between me and my co-founder was that I hold on this position and I be the person that handles both the business and the operational side, not the operational, the technology side, and when it comes to designing. And he's more focused on the security aspect, because as you know, blockchain is a computer security topic. It's not like if you're talking about a domain, it's a security topic. Cryptography, all of those are much more focused towards security. So when it comes to research, when it comes to cryptography and a lot of the other complex work, it's my co-founder that usually does it, and I usually handle the other side of things, like business. From the business side, like talking to investors, making pitch decks, talking to customers most of the time, and also building up the product. For example, how, like, what is the design going to be from the mobile side? What is it going to be from the website? How are you gonna build it up? Things like that. That kind of
That was
answers.
nice. Yeah, that was nice. Yeah, obviously I was expecting that, because on the first place, when someone is starting any startup or they're going with their products, they get confused. What to do first? Should I try to lead first, or I should work on the product, research? A lot to do. And I don't know a lot about it, but I feel like that entrepreneurship is kind of a full stack thing. You need a bunch of things to make it happen. Okay,
True.
so yeah, that was nice to hear from you. So the next thing, we are really curious to know that we have seen your YouTube channel, right? And if you
Mhm.
don't mind, I want to share something directly.
Sure.
What happens in the USA in their startup culture presently, what they are doing there, they are trying to build a great YouTube channel. They are trying to create audience, and then they are going for their sales so that they can have more of an identity, and they are getting organic audience. Did you following the same way, or you have some other plans with your YouTube?
But in my case, I wasn't necessarily thinking about YouTube is like a way to gain organic customers. If it does happen, I would not be opposed to it, but I don't necessarily see it as like that. I think I see it more as like a hobby rather than a business. And I don't necessarily see myself being a YouTuber. I think I did it personally to share knowledge.
Which is that there is a great blow of artificial intelligence in the world of like tech, and almost in every places. People are, or big companies are laying off employees. They are trying to use AI. OpenAI is doing really great. Bard and the Bing, where they used in Microsoft, that didn't work, okay, as people were expecting. So what do you think, how Snapchat is operating with AI? Okay, so if you share your experience, because I guess that will be a great thing in the future, and if you share the whole practical experience.
Okay, so Snapchat is unfortunately not in the same race as Google and Microsoft. So Google and Microsoft, what they're doing is they're using AI, which is like one of the forms of AI is linguistic models, right? Generative linguistic models. So that's the race that Google and Microsoft is currently on. But when it comes to Snapchat, Snapchat is in a race with Meta. So Snapchat's actual competition is with Meta. So there was like a funny thing at Snapchat, which is like every year, like if you're a Snapchat engineer, you get invited to work at Meta, and they will pay you observant amount of money just to lure you from Snapchat. And it's the same. Like Snapchat does the same exact thing with Meta engineers. They go to Meta, and then they're like, okay, we're gonna pay. Like first, we're gonna like, listen what money you like, what sort of money you make, and then we're gonna pay you way more. That's an offer you cannot reject. It's just a famous saying between those two companies, but essentially Snapchat's main competitor is Meta, and it's in the augmented side of things. It's in the virtual reality. So the things that Snapchat is working on when it comes to augmented reality are very interesting. I went to one of their VR labs, I think back in 2021, end of 21. It was very interesting, some of the work they're doing. I'm very excited for the company. Obviously, the stocks right now are not doing well, but I'm very excited about Snap's future going forward. I think they're doing some incredible work when it comes to augmented reality and how we see the world from the lenses of like physical world versus like a reality world. I'd say it's very interesting. One thing that I would do suggest is this is something that I'm pretty sure other companies do it, but Snapchat does. Is whenever it's trying to compete, let's say like right now when Microsoft announced announced OpenAI's integration, ChatGPT's integration with Bing. What we call is something called war room. So what happens is we need an immediate solution. So what this big guys usually do is, like, when they need a response immediately, they just put like some of the highest performers from the company into a single room, and they just say, like, you just have to stay there for the next 24, 36, 48 hours. Like, we will give you food and everything, you just have to stay in the room. The concept is something like this. The concept is, if you put a bunch of smart people in one room, like, you're gonna come up with something, like, and they're all thinking about the same thing, you're gonna come up with something. So that's something that Snapchat used to do every single quarter. They used to, like, put us in a box, and then tell us, okay, just come up with something. And then sometimes those are the product ideas they would, like, go ahead and implement over. I'm pretty sure that's exactly what Google did when they needed an answer for OpenAI's integration. But when it comes to answering the direct question, which is AI battle, I don't think Snapchat is in it. Snapchat is more into the battle with Meta for augmented reality and that market share. And I think Snapchat is doing very well, and I'm very excited about the future. And as far as AI is concerned, I really like ChatGPT. I haven't really used it extensively, but it's a good tool to increase your productivity, because it can generate a lot of boilerplate code for you. So I would say I'm very excited about using it. But right now I cannot really use it because the thing is, we are not allowed to share our company secrets. And if you give prompts to OpenAI, they store the prompt. So we're not allowed to use it, but I use it for my startup, because as of right now, it's not necessarily as big that we need to be concerned about it. And I really like using it for my startup, but not for my job.
Yeah, for the first time I'm asking questions to someone, and you're really thoughtful about all the things, you elaborated all the things really great, and I got to know a lot of things from that personally, being honest. So yeah, again from my side, thanks a bunch.
Thank you again, both Arif and Abir. Thank you so much for having like set up this call. It was really nice chatting with you guys, and like, you guys are doing some really good stuff with short stories. I looked into the. I'm just gonna be honest. Like, I didn't personally know it, but I went to you guys' Facebook page, and I myself learned a lot about other people's journey. And I also think you guys are doing some amazing things. So continue to do those. I'm very excited about the project and see where you guys are going to get headed in the next couple of years. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay, bye.